In the name of Lord Jesus Christ, I speak. Thank God we are able to study the book of Psalms. We know that this book is full of wonderful teachings, concerning how to live a godly life. And also we see teachings concerning the future of the church. And I think the center, or I would say central message of the book of Psalms is on Jesus Christ, right? How he would come to this world and to die for us. And he would become the king who dwells in Zion. I think if you look at other prophetic books as well, you will see that this theme is also, I would say, can also be found in the prophecies of the prophets. Right? So that's the reason why I said, the book is for us. It's for the true church, for the end time true church of God. Okay, now we move to come to chapter 18. Yeah. Now, as I mentioned to you before, this chapter can also be found in 2 Samuel, 2 Samuel chapter 22, right? I'm not sure if you have also read 2 Samuel chapter 22. It's almost identical. All right. I guess if we have time, we will look at chapter 22 as well, right? Chapter 22 as well. Now, I think I forgot to mention this to you. When you look at 2 Samuel chapter 23, and the first part of chapter 23 actually is also a psalm. Okay, and although here it talks about like the final words of David, okay, and quite clearly he has mentioned it, or he has written it, if you like, in the form of a psalm. Okay. So we'll make time, see if we can cover Psalms that outside the book of Psalms. Right, now we are going to base our study on chapter 18 of the book of Psalms. All right, now I want you to look at the superscriptions given. Now, in fact, you find that the superscription given is almost, I would say, identical to 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 1. Right? Now, but there is a question I would raise later on for you to think about. Okay, now just look at the superscription first. To the chief musician, a psalm of David, here it says, the servant of the Lord, who spoke to the Lord the words of this song on the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. And he said this. Okay, now, to most people, they would believe that if you don't read 2 Samuel chapter 22, you would assume that after Saul died, right? Like in 1 Samuel chapter 31. Okay, probably the psalm would be written around this time. Okay, now the question is, it also appears in 2 Samuel chapter 22, or chapter 22. Now, meaning that, how can I put it? It was quite late, even after the son has rebelled against him. All right, when you read chapter 18, for example, in 2 Samuel, his son died. All right, and and his son was killed. I mean, Absalom was killed in chapter 18. And David obviously was very sad, and so after that, according to the scriptures, he would no longer on the run, and he returned to Jerusalem. Now, the point is, why is it that in 2 Samuel chapter 22, the same psalm is stated again? All right. Now, so my reasoning, is that Psalms chapter 18 to me is was written after the death of Saul, or when God has set David free from all his enemy and from the hands of Saul. Okay, now when you look at chapter 22, it's like he is using the same psalm to talk about how God, has delivered him from his enemies. Obviously, the leader of his enemies at the time was his son. Okay, now he was using the same content to praise the Lord, right? And like how can I say it? And to allow his people to understand that God has been good and has been great, and to him. And so he is the most high God. All right. Now, so you find that this psalm actually is how can I say, is full of teachings, all right? And it also tells us about why God has been on the side of David. There must be a reason. Okay. Now we know that when he was pursued after by King Saul, you find that the wrong was not with him. But when he was pursued by his son Absalom, the wrong was very much on David himself, because of the sin that he has committed. Okay, now we find that on both occasions, God saved him from his enemies. Okay, from his enemies. All right, now we just go through it, section by section. There are quite many sections. Okay, now I guess we just look at verse 1 to verse 3 first. All right. Now here is like his perception of God and who God is to David. Okay. Now I think in our life we also have our understanding of God and who is God to us. Right. Now, so to some people, God is just like a physician, or he is a problem solver. Right? When our illnesses are healed, when problems are solved, you find that he would what? He would, God would be put aside. All right. Now, for those who are sincere, like David was, God is, he is his strength, is their strength. All right. And the Lord is their rock and their fortress and their deliverer. All right. Now, I want you to look at verse 2. Yeah? It said, the last part, it said, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. And here the horn represents his strength. My shield and my strength of my salvation, my stronghold. Basically, David is saying that God is everything to him, everything to him, right? So I guess we need to, how can I put it, reach this level of understanding that is, as far as our relationship with God is concerned, God must be everything to us. So, by that I mean, whatever we do, we must be under the dictate of the Lord, meaning we must be willing, to submit fully to him. Okay. Now, I think that is the idea, all right, the idea. Okay, now, so if God is not, how can I say, a God of all times to us, meaning that, in every second or minutes in our life, if God is not considered our God or we put God aside, that problem probably will emerge. Okay, now you find that we can only be completely secured, put it this way, when God is completely our God, right? When God is willing to be our God. Okay, now you find that this is what David is talking about here. Now, so we're back to the first section. I will call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised, so shall I be saved from my enemies. All right. Now we know that in his life, to be honest, David did not, go against anyone willfully. All right. And yet you see that, so many people would want to go against him, even to put him away, right? Now we say that obviously that is the work of the wicked one, just like King Saul when he was demon possessed. He would want to pin David down with his spears on at least 2 separate occasions, and you can see how God actually saved him. All right. Now, so it must be quite scary when you play the music before that guy, and suddenly he just pick up a spear and just throw at you. So it also goes to show that the protection of God is always with David, and also we see that he was a man of agility. Right? I think his movement must be very fast as well. To be a king, he must be well trained in fighting, in battle as well. All the basic techniques, he must have known, and he must have known it well. Otherwise, how could he lead an army and go and fight, right? So he must have gone through some sort of military training as well. To pin David down with a spear, I don't think is a huge problem to him, all right? But it's just that God's protection was with David. Okay, now, so this is his life, this is his life. Okay, now I want you to look at verse 4 now to verse 6. Yeah. Now here it talks about this, the how can I say, the severity of the attack. All right, and it's like he was cornered. He was cornered. Right now, when you look at the incidents of being pursued by King Saul, I just want to ask, how many soldiers do you think Saul led to capture David? How many? Anyone? It's not just 1 or 2, Okay, we find out, you see how many. We can tend to, what is that? 20. 22. How many? Just give me a minute now. Okay, 24, yeah, sorry, 24. Now, verse 2, how many? Chapter 24, verse 2. How many soldiers do you think he led?
3,000.
3,000. What kind of soldiers are they? Chosen men from all Israel. It's like, what is that? What do you call it in today's equivalent? SAS, that's the UK. Special forces, right? chosen men. So they were well trained, you know. It's like, to me, it's like the choicest ones were chosen to not to fight against the Philistines, but to capture David. You know, at that time, you know, David only had about 400 people. Obviously, gradually it increased to 600. You know, now if you think about this, you know, what is the 600? You know, what can the 600 do? Right? It's nothing. Because, you know, those who were with David, they were like, you know, like the breakaway, you know, you know, those who did not have anyone to care for, you know, stuff like that. Okay, we read chapter 22, verse 2, all right? Chapter 22, verse 2. And everyone who was in distress, everyone who was in debt, everyone who was discontented, gathered to him. You know, they were a group of what is that? How can I say? Outcasts, if I can put it this way. Yeah, outcasts of the society, people who were in great distresses. Yeah. How were they going to fight against the choice, you know, soldier, yeah, of King Saul, right? Now, so I told you before, yeah, if you want to understand a certain passage in the book of Psalm, if the background information is given, then you need to go and look at it more closely, or to understand, you know, to appreciate the Psalm better, right? Now, so no wonder in chapter 18, verse 4, he says, the pangs of death surrounded me, and the floods of ungodliness made me afraid. Okay, now, so, you know, when you look at this, pangs of death surrounded him, obviously it's like he knew he was cornered, right? He knew he was cornered. Had it not been for God, yeah, you know, he would have been killed. All right. Now, the only thing is, when you read, when you study the book of 1 Samuel, it's just that God, you know, did not give David unto the hands of King Saul. All right. Now, is that, you know, God has been, you know, protecting King David, right? So, but, you know, though that being the fact, all right, we know that this is quite stressful, isn't it? If we were in the position of David, obviously we know that, you know, it's so hard to bear, or it's so hard to bear. Now, I want you to turn to chapter 23 of 1 Samuel, and this is what he says, all right? Just look at it. Chapter 23, verse 14. Now, and David stayed in strongholds in the wilderness. And on that occasion, he has already fled to the wilderness and remained in the mountains in the wilderness of Ziph. Ziph so sought him every day. It's not like only an occasional thing, you know. Okay, maybe this week we go and hunt David down, or tomorrow we take a break or whatever. No, but according to the description here, is a daily affair. Now, what happened? But God did not deliver him into his hand. That is the thing, right? Now, so this King Saul may be the king of the country with a lot of, you know, choice soldiers, you know, to fight for himself. And on this occasion, obviously, was trying to capture, right, David, but he could not. Why? Because God did not deliver him into his hand. Now, when you read chapter 18 of Psalm, yeah, then you appreciate, you know, the way he has worded the Psalm, and he praised God so much, right? And because he knew that no one is God except the Lord, and he is his rock, you know, and this rock is God himself, right? Now, we come back, yeah? Now, I want you to look at verse 4. You know, verse 4, here it says, the floods of ungodliness. If you look at the small words given in your Bible, literally it means what? Belial. What is a Belial? A son of Satan, right? Or Satan, just Satan, okay? Now, meaning floods of what? Ungodliness made me afraid. Meaning, you find that all these people who were with Saul, all right, they were not like good people. Okay, we can say that they were actually taken control by Satan. All right, now, so I think verse 4 is the key idea that we need to understand, right? Now, because he's not talking about just a normal pursuit here. Okay, in fact, the pursuit, if you like, after David was driven by what? By Satan. Can you see now? Right? Now, you know, he saved the country and God has chosen him to do the work of shepherding. And he loved the people. He fought and he defeated Goliath, right? And you know that the name of God was blasphemed because of that guy. You know, no man from Israel, dared to risk, his life to fight against this Goliath. But David was spirit-driven, to go and fight against this guy, and he killed him. And what did he get in return? The pursuit of Saul. It's unbelievable. Can you understand? It's driven. That's why it said when you look at the works of Saul after chapter 16 in 1 Samuel, all his works are Satan-driven. You know why? Because Satan has left him. I mean, God has left him, and Satan, came in and possessed him. Right? That's why all the things that he did from then on, we say what? We said in human term is of madness. You cannot understand. No, you cannot understand. Now, I always believe in this. In the church, we have to be extra careful, especially with ourselves, with our heart condition. We must make sure that our heart is pure, is right before God. Right? We do not want to end up just like this guy here, King Saul. Now, I think not here. Okay, it's myself. Because he did not repent fully, so the wrongs is like a gap, for Satan to come in. All right. So he made two major mistakes in life, one after another. The second mistake, was actually committed, when God gave him the opportunity to prove himself that he has turned over a new leaf. Very unfortunate. You find that he did not heed the command of the Lord. And in fact, he kept back some cattle, some animals for himself, right? And what happened? He was rejected. And then when God left him, and the evil spirit came. Right? All right. Now, so you understand now what I'm saying. When you look at the background carefully, if you have understood, analyzed the background, then you would appreciate what he's saying. You would not say, what is he talking about? The flood of Belial. Right? What is he trying to tell us? Okay. Now, so I guess in the church, if we are not careful, this thing can also happen to us. We will become, like we become the persecutor of those who are doing good. Okay, so we have to be prayerful. We need to really guard our heart, to make sure that our heart is not given any opportunity to this wicked one to work in. Okay. When we said this is applied to Jesus, you see that the incident of David, yeah, you know, many of the verses concerning the suffering of David, you know, the things that he had gone through, can also be found in the New Testament scriptures. Yeah. Now, that goes to show that, yeah, if we talk about, you know, verse 4 again, if you talk about verse 4, yeah, we see that Jesus was also surrounded. Yeah, we said by Belial. Now, how do we explain that? You know, Satan started working because of who? Judas. Because he has given ground to Jude, you know, Satan to work. Can you see the parallel? Yeah, parallel. All right. Now, and because of that, he betrayed Jesus just for 30 pieces of silver. And then what happened? Jesus was captured and was killed. All right. Okay. Now, I want you to move on, yeah? And so you can see in verse 5, the sorrows of Sheol surrounded me, the snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called upon the Lord and cried out to my God. He heard my voice from his temple, and my cry came before him, even to his ears. Now you can imagine, you know, he was leading a life, yeah, a life of crying out to God at all times. Right? We may say, oh, this is such a pitiful life. This is such a how can I say, a life that I don't think anyone want to live. But in a way, it's good for him because it you know, it built up, you know, his faith in God. All right. Now the lives of suffering that David has been through has become a very, how can I say, a very good example for us to model upon, you know, in terms of trusting in the Lord, how to trust in God fully. Okay. All right, now we move on from verse 7, yeah, all the way to verse 12. Here it talks about, you know, the power of God, the power of God. Now, when he is angry, we find that, you know, even the foundation of the earth, or even the earth shall shake and shall tremble as well. Okay. Now, you know that when he is angry, yeah, he can what? He can pour out his wrath, yeah, on those who what? Who have gone against him, or who, you know, in this case, you know, persecuted his chosen. Now, so I think verse 7 to verse 12 tell us about, you know, God is in control, you know, of nature. In fact, the entire universe, you know, is like telling us that, you know, everything belongs to him, and, you know, he has control over all things. Now, I think this is like, you know, saying to us that, you know, yes, David may be going through life threatening situation, yeah, but God is in control, yeah, in a way. Now, I just want you to read verse 10, and this is quite an interesting descriptions given here. And he rode upon a cherub and flew. He flew upon the wings of the wind, right? Now, I think here it talks about the close connection between God and the cherubim, all right? We know that the cherubim first described in where? In Genesis, isn't it? So after they have after Adam and Eve were driven out of the Garden of Eden, so God set a station, some cherubim, one or two cherubim, you know, with flaming sword, right, so that they could not enter back again. Yeah. Okay. All right. We move on. Yeah, we move on from verse 13 to verse 15. Now, so when God commanded, yeah, the nature to work, you see that, you know, and the nature would fight against, yeah, his enemies. All right. Now you can see this in verse 13. how he commanded a hailstone and coal of fire, and even arrows, to and scatter the foe, right? Scatter the enemies, basically, right? Okay. Now, even you find that the sea, the foundation of the world, when God rebuked the nature would run away from the presence of the Lord. Yeah, this is the description also can be found in other part of the scriptures, like in the prophetic book, when the coming of the Lord or the Lord's day is mentioned. And particularly when you look at the book of Revelation, and we can see some vivid descriptions of how the sky, the mountain, or whatever would run away from the presence of the Lord, who is angry. Okay. Now, so from 13 to 15, you can see that, God is in control. God can actually cause, his enemies to run away. Now, we look at the verse 16 now to verse 19, and here we can see the salvation that God gave to David, right? Gave to David. He sent from above, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. In fact, this is very true, isn't it? Now, he delivered me from my strong enemy, for those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. Now, you find that, the verse 17, he said, those who hated me. Now, but you find that David did no wrong, to anger anyone, all right? He had not, how can I say, violated the rights of anyone, stuff like that. Why did people hate him so much? Just like King Saul, he wanted to what? Pin him down with a spear, right? Why? Because, he was captured by Satan to do the will of Satan. Now, when I want you to understand this, God is love, am I right? Right? Now, anyone who is not within God, then he cannot possess the love of God. Now, so when you look at Satan, obviously the opposite of love is what? Hate. Right? So a person who is possessed by demon, or who is who has given ground to Satan to work, obviously you can see the hatred in the person for no apparent reasons, right? Because it's just that he has been used by Satan. He has been used by Satan. Right. Now, so for they were too strong for me, like in the case of the 3,000 choice men, chosen from Israel. All right. Now, you know how, if you have read that part of the scriptures, First Samuel, did you know how David escaped on that occasion? It's just that when King Saul was about to surround David, and then there was a report, isn't it, saying that the Philistines were trying to enter into the land of Israel, all right, and because of that, King Saul had no choice but to bring all his army back, and this is how he escaped. Okay, you can double check that, and that is what I remember. All right. Okay. Now we read on. So verse 18, they confronted me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my support. He also brought me out into a broad place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. Now, so you find that, what David was saying here is that God was always by his side. That is the most crucial point. Like what we said, it's not about ourselves. It's not about how people will look at us. Obviously, we need to examine ourselves when we hear comments about us, people talking about us. All right. Now, I think the most crucial thing is we must always write our relationship with God before Him. Okay, before Him. All right. Now, because He says in verse 19, He delivered me because He delighted in me. Now, In what way do you think God took delight in the things that David did? Now, verse 20 onwards is a list of things that he has done. Okay. Now, when you look at verse 20, the Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hand, he has recompensed me. Okay. Now, so again, this idea of righteousness is brought to the scene here. Now, meaning that, God really desires to see that we are righteous, or we abide by his righteous standard. Okay. Now, because both of you are going to be full-time workers, all right, it is important for us to be righteous in the heart. Okay. Now, we want to do what is right in the eyes of God, not in the eyes of men. So to do what is right in the eyes of God means we follow what the Bible teaches. Sometimes we can be easily swayed by the situation that we are in. We tend to follow the crowd more than anything else. But at times, we find that God may want you to stand up for a certain matter. All right. Obviously, when you do that, you do so with a heart of humility and with a heart of reverence towards God. Okay. Now, so according to the cleanness of his hand, he has recompensed him. Now, also verse 21 is saying, for I have kept the ways of the Lord and have not wickedly departed from my God. Now, why did he say he had not wickedly departed? Why? Wickedly can means what? Willfully. Okay. Now, you also see that, the definition of being wicked, I think is fully exemplified in chapter 10 that we have studied, isn't it? Because the chapter is talking about the wicked, right? And it's talking about the mindset of the wicked. Is it not true? Right? God is in none of his thoughts. Okay, it's not there. Okay, and a wicked person does not believe that God would know what he has done, that kind of thing. All right, it's like he just ignores God, put God aside. Okay, that is the idea. So you find that David has not done that. He has not. All right, now, so if you use chapter 10 to understand this passage, you know that although he was on the run, he did not sin against God willfully. Now, even he was given at least two opportunities or two chances to put King Saul away, but he did not do that. Why? Because he had God in his heart. All right. Okay. Now we read on from verse 22. Because he has taken all his judgment very seriously, he did not put God's statutes away from him. Now that is the reason, all right, why he was able to act so righteously, so uprightly, even in the most challenging of times. Okay, now I want you to look at from verse 23 to verse 26. I think this is like, what is that? To verse 27. And this is like what he has gathered, from his experiences of running away from Saul, or even running away from his sons. Okay. Now, so I was also blameless before him, and I kept myself from my iniquity. Now, meaning he was very much focused on how to better himself in times of persecution. Okay. Now, it's not just about running away from his foe or his enemies, but rather to make himself better. Yeah, I think this is what we need to do as well, especially when we're faced with challenging times. Yeah, in our service to the Lord, always look into ourselves very carefully, and to see which aspects of our life that we need to change ourselves for the better. Okay, now, so Therefore, the Lord has recompensed me according to, again, he said, to my righteousness, which is also found in verse 20, according to the cleanness of my hand in his sight. Okay. Now, so it's like saying that, he was able to remain blameless. Yeah, he did not depart from God. And it's all because what? Yeah, he knew the righteousness of God, right? And to make sure that whatever he did is clean, yeah, in God's sight. Now, this is from verse 27 on, 25 onwards. Here it talks about, the reaction, if you like, or the responses of God, yeah, to each situations in our life. Okay. Now, if we are merciful, then God will show us mercy. Right now, this is how God, works. Or this is how He works. Right now, and then if we are pure, then He will show Himself pure. Right now, if we are devious, then He will show Himself shrewd to us. Now, just like if we forgive, then He will forgive our sin. That kind of thing. Right? So He responds, to the way we react to a situation. Now, give you another example. If you look at Jonah, the case of Jonah, when he went to the city of Nineveh, right, to preach. Now, the people what? The people repented, yeah? And pour ashes on them and tore their clothes or whatever, and sincerely acknowledge their sin and before God. Then what happened? What happened? You find that God relented, yeah, from punishing what? The people. Okay, so here we can see how God will react, right, to each human situation, if you like, right? Now, for you will save the humble people, but will bring down haughty looks, and this is how God will do. What God will do. Now, I just want you to look at because you are going to be, full-time workers. Yeah, I guess it's important to talk about this issue as well, raised by the self-existence of Satan. In fact, this is one of the pillars that those who how can I say, those who propagate the idea of self-existence. All right, and it's like saying that yes, God is all-knowing, but we have to define or redefine what all-knowing is all about. Okay, now, so just to cut the long story short, yeah, and they believe that God knows the deeds of the righteous throughout, but God does not know the deed of the wicked. It's like the deeds of the wicked are kept from His eyes. Okay, but when you read all this, and it's not correct. All right, these are wrong teachings. Okay, now we turn to Genesis chapter 6. We turn to Genesis chapter 6. Now, I want you to read verse 5 to verse 6. Yeah? Now, then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that He had made man on the earth, and He was grieved in His heart. I'm not sure if you have heard about this theory called process theology. Okay, you can Google it and find out. Yeah. Now, I guess you also need to get yourself prepared for this when questions of this nature is raised. All right. Now, simply put, process theology states that God actually does not know the future. As time progresses, God learned about the affair of humanity, something like that. Okay. Now, just like this case here, they use this as an example and saying that you see, when God initially created Adam and Eve, he did not know that there was sin, and man would continue to sin. That is the reason why he felt sorry about it. Okay, now, and God even was grieved in his heart. Now, I just want you to understand this. Yeah, when you talk about God's sorry, God's being sorry, and God's relented. Yeah. The sorry and relenting, being sorry and relenting is very different from, I would say, one that we see in the human context. Okay, now I just want you to read the, where is it? We turn to 1 Samuel, I think. Okay, we turn to 1 Samuel. Okay, 1 Samuel. Give me a minute. Okay, now chapter 15, yeah, we read verse 29. Okay. Now the strength here refers to God, yeah. Right now, and also the strength of Israel will not lie nor relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. But we see that he relented so many times. Is that true? So the relenting here is different from what we normally understand. It's like, oh, for me, for example, yeah, I know that, oh, I now I got stomach ache. You know why? Because I've eaten too much. If I have known about it, I would not have eaten that much. You know what I'm saying? But God is not like that. Whatever God has said will surely come to pass. Now the question is, why does the Bible say he felt sorry or he even repented? Okay, now I want you to look at Numbers as well, yeah, to get all these verses first, and then we talk about the principle, yeah, the principle. Now, verse 19, yeah, chapter 23, verse 19. Chapter 23, verse 19. God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and will he not do? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good? Now, so, if you look, said also, okay, because after the creation, he said, all things are good, very good, in fact. Right? How can he feel sorry over, things that he has created perfectly in his mind? Right? Now, we also read this Jeremiah. I want you to turn to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 4. Jeremiah chapter 4, we read verse 28. Now, for this shall the earth mourn, and the heavens above me black, because I have spoken, I have proposed, and will not relent, nor will I turn back from it. Meaning, whatever he has done, he is very determined, yeah, to see it through. Okay, simple as that. Now, how would he explain that? When like in the case of Nineveh, he relented. Now, the relenting there must be understood in the context of his responses to human reactions. You understand what I'm saying now? Just like what we have read in the book of Psalms, chapter 18. You understand what I'm saying now? Okay? Now, so with the merciful, you will show merciful. With a blameless man, you will show blameless. Now, if I sin, then what happened? He would punish. Is that not true? Now, in the course of punishing us, he would feel grief, right? He would feel sorry. Sorry does not mean that he has done wrong. You understand what I'm saying? It's just that because, you know, he loves us, and yet we have chosen to turn our back on him. And that's why, being a righteous God, yeah, he has to execute what? His judgment upon us. Does it make sense now? All right? This is how we can look at the, you know, the issue of God's relenting. We need to understand it's very different, you know. It's not like, you know, oh, I have spoken some words I shouldn't have spoken. You know, sorry, God, I won't do it again, that kind of thing. It's different because from all these verses, it's clear that he does not relent. Okay? My time is up already. Yeah. Okay, I guess we take a break. Sorry, stick to the time.